Today, I'm excited to introduce you to a wonderful friend and a wonderful person making great changes in the world. Her name is Dale Troy, and she is a college success coach, is the founder of Crush College Stress, and a company dedicated to helping students succeed in college. Dale, can you please tell us a little bit more about you, your zone of genius, and how you help the world?
I'd love to. Thank you. So what is my zone of genius? I think that it's multifaceted, but in terms of what we're talking about today, it has to do with how to be the best person you can be in terms of your health, in terms of your habits, in terms of your just daily, how you feel, in terms of your stress. And I've decided, based on my health coach background, that it's the college students or soon to be college students that really need help in this area. So that's who I'm focusing on now.
With that said, we're talking about anxiety and we're talking about stress. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the differences, because there are differences, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people kind of mesh them into one, but they're actually separate. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. And I can't tell you the exact definitions of each one, but in my mind, stress can actually be good. Stress has a good aspect. When a performer who's going to go on stage, they often feel stressed beforehand. It's almost more of like an excitement feeling, but you can have some of the same symptoms, like your heart racing and maybe you're getting sweaty hands or something. But it actually helps you perform. Whereas the bad stress is when you're it's more of like a fearful, overwhelming feeling where that doesn't go away, that you don't know how to get rid of. And that's what we want to prevent from happening. And that's why you need tools to start to calm yourself down and bring yourself back to being more mindful. So that's kind of what stress is. Whereas anxiety is more about constant worry. What if this happens? What if I'm wearing the wrong shoes and it starts raining? What if I don't have an umbrella? What if I fall down and I don't have a Band-Aid with me? What if I can't get a cab and I have to walk out in the rain? And like this is like your mind is going on, and you just don't feel safe in the world because you think things are going to happen and you won't be able to handle them, or something bad will happen. I see that more as anxiety. And I've had both. So sometimes they do kind of come together, but you're right. In fact, in this presentation I did last night, I said that I'm using the word stress, but your child might use a different word. Your child might use the word overwhelm or anxious or worried, or it could be a different word, but basically they're saying that they don't feel in control of themselves. They're feeling out of control. They feel like they can't handle something. That's kind of the similarity in my mind.
Yeah, very important point, especially when we talk about the separation. Again, from a parent's perspective, there are so many fine lines, and again, it's easy to mesh them together, but they can, there are clear definitions. And then again, there's this progression. If you allow anxiety and stress to accumulate, then there's this possibility of depression issues. But we want to try and nip it in the bud as fast as we can, so it doesn't become this sense of overwhelm, this sense where then it starts to really affect a youth's life and in so many ways. And I like the way how you say there's good stress and bad stress, and that's part of mindfulness too, isn't it? Is knowing, getting to know yourself and knowing your limitations. With that in mind, what's your experience been with depression, symptoms of depression that you might have seen with students? Anything interesting that you might have noticed lately? Or?
Actually, it was interesting. I haven't noticed it with anyone that I'm working with, other than once in a while I'll feel like they seem kind of, what I would say, blah. not necessarily depressed. And when I ask them, they'll just say, I'm okay. I think they are. But there are signs that you can look for and that you can be, you should be aware of in terms of whether your children might be moving in that direction. And one of the biggest ones I believe is, we're talking about sleep, is oversleeping.
Yeah.
And just always wanting to, and I had a child like myself years ago who did this, and she would just, come home and get in her bed after school and just didn't want to do anything. So it's kind of wanting to close out the world, not interact with people. And that's a sure sign of depression. Other things could be things like changes in just general habits, maybe not wanting to eat, or maybe overeating, eating too much, doing something that's out of character. I think those are kind of signs that there's something going on. It might not be depression. It could just be anxiety. It could be, a range of things. But if you just pay attention to your child's habits and patterns, and if they start to change dramatically, it's something to look into.
Thank you for sharing that with our audience. Again, there's a fine line between being, blah, and then having signs of depression. And we want to be able to catch that as early as we can to support our youth, especially when we're dealing with all these changes in the world. Sometimes parents are so busy, they might miss those subtle signs or those big signs, depending on the circumstance. A lot of families are in upheaval right now. Other suggestions that you might do if a parent happens to see these signs in their child, what would you recommend?
I would first have them talk to their pediatrician, their regular doctor. Of course, there can always be some kind of physical problem also. So I tend to feel like it's better to rule those out first. And if that doesn't yield any obvious, relationship with what the symptoms are, then probably the next step would be to see a therapist.
Okay, great advice. So again, it's a great tool to be able to tap into the resources that we have in our community, such as a medical professional. If you have educators around you, health coaches such as Dale, these are all people that can guide you to the right resources if you find that your child, your younger child, or even your older child, your youth are experiencing challenges right now, and you are concerned that it might be more than just a blah day. So those are some great tips for that as well.